morning, church. It is great to see you here today. Why don't you stand to your feet this morning as we sing? You call me strong and courageous when I don't feel like I am. You could have turned me away, but you chose me instead. You say that I'm gonna make it when I don't feel like I can. You see the battle I'm facing, and you're still there. You're in it with me, working through me, fighting for me. God is not against me. You're in it with me, working through me, fighting for me. God is not against me.
And I have a new revelation. Savior who calls me his friend. I used to fight on my own, but never again. I have a power that's greater than all of the enemy's lies. I know the truth of the gospel, that you're on my side. You're on my side.
You're in it with me, working through me, fighting for me. God is not against me. You're in it with me, working through me, fighting for me. God is not against me. This is not my fight. You are my defense. You hold my life. This is my confidence. You are by my side. You call me friend. You hold my life. This is my confidence. This is not my fight. You are my defense. You hold my life. This is my confidence. You are by my side. You call me friend. You hold my life. This is my confidence. You're in it with me, working through me, and fighting for me. God is not against me. You're in it with me, working through me, fighting for me. God is not against me. You're in it with me, you're working through me, you're fighting for me. God is not against me. You're in it with me, working through me, you're fighting for me. God is not against me.
Blessed assurance, Jesus is mine. He's been my fourth man in the fire, time after time. Born of his spirit, washed in his blood. And what he did for me on Calvary is more than enough. I trust in God, sought the Lord, and He heard, and He answered. That's why I trust Him. That's why I trust Him. I sought the Lord, and He heard, and He answered. I sought the Lord, and He heard, and He answered. I sought the Lord, and He heard, and He answered. That's why I trust Him. That's why I trust Him. I sought the Lord, and He heard, and He answered. I sought the Lord, and He heard, and He answered. I sought the Lord, and He heard, and He answered. That's why I trust Him. That's why I trust Him. I sought the Lord, and He heard, and He answered. I sought the Lord, and He heard, and He answered. I sought the Lord, and He heard, and He answered. That's why I trust Him. That's why I trust in God, my Savior, the one who will never fail. He will never fail. I trust in God, my Savior, the one who will never fail. He will never fail. And I sought the Lord, and He heard, and He answered. I sought the Lord, and He heard, and He answered. I sought the Lord, and He heard, and He answered. That's why I trust Him. That's why I trust Him. I sought the Lord, and He heard, and He answered. I sought the Lord, and He heard, and He answered. I sought the Lord, and He heard, and He answered. That's why I trust Him. That's why I trust Him. I trust in God, my Savior, the one who will never fail. He will never fail. I trust in God, my Savior, the one who will never fail. He will never fail.
Angels we have heard on high, sweetly singing o'er the plains, and the mountains in reply, echoing their joyous strains. Gloria, Gloria in excelsis Deo, in excelsis Deo. Gloria, Gloria in excelsis Deo, in excelsis Deo. joyous strains prolong, what the gladsome tidings be, which inspire your heavenly song, singing Gloria, Gloria in excelsis Deo, in excelsis Deo, Gloria, Gloria in excelsis Deo, in excelsis Deo. Come to Bethlehem and see him whose birth the angels sing. Come adore on bended knee, Christ the Lord, the newborn King, singing Gloria, Gloria in excelsis Deo, in excelsis Deo, Gloria, Gloria in excelsis Deo, in excelsis Deo. You guys can take a seat.
If you're around Southside for any length of time, you're bound to hear someone say there's no mission like this mission. Our mission here is simple. Southside exists to make Jesus known by bringing help, hope, and home to Chilliwack and beyond. Help that reaches past the four walls of our church, because life is hard and the people of our city need support that goes beyond thoughts and prayers. Home because everyone needs a place where they belong. And hope because that's what it's all about. You see, hope has a name, and that name is Jesus. And we will do whatever it takes to ensure the people around us experience his hope. One life, one story at a time. 1 + 1 + 1 + 1.
See, there's this old man, he's sitting on a bench overlooking the ocean, and it comes to his attention, there's a little boy on the shore, and what this little boy is doing, this little boy is just picking up starfish, and he's throwing them back into the ocean. The high tide has receded, stranding thousands and thousands and thousands of starfish that are gonna shrivel up and die. So this little boy is walking along, he's picking up starfish, he's throwing them back into the ocean, and finally the old man can't take it anymore. He's like, hey kid, hey kid, what are you doing? You understand, like there's millions of starfish on this beach, right? Go play, go have fun. You're making no difference. The little boy glances at the older man, and he turns and he picks up a starfish. He throws it into the water, and he whispers to himself, made a difference to that one. This is why we do what we do.
Looking back on this year, what we have seen God do is nothing short of a miracle. He's used each of us to make a difference over and over again. At Southside, we believe that investing in the next generation is worth everything. On Wednesdays, Southside Youth welcomes around 200 students each week, a place where teenagers can feel supported and right at home. Astonishingly, 132 students prayed to accept Jesus for the first time this year, and 59 were baptized. Our Southside Kids welcomes over 400 kids every week. Those 400 kids are learning about the love of Jesus and the amazing plans he has for their lives in a fun way, at their level. This year, we gave almost $1 million through our help ministries, including our biggest and brightest All Is Bright Christmas initiative ever. For All Is Bright, we brought $500,000 back to our city in tangible help. With over 2,000 volunteers shopping, wrapping, and delivering, we did all we could to ensure that no single parent would struggle to provide food for their family over the holidays, and no child would wake up Christmas morning without a gift. In total, 15,000 wrapped gifts and hampers were delivered to families all over our city. Each week, the number of people who gather in person and online for our Sunday services has grown to an average of 3,500 people. Over 550 people volunteer on our home team week to week. A number that we're still trying to wrap our minds around is the remarkable 273 people who took their next step of faith and got baptized this year. And then, the most staggering number of all, in 2024, a historic 1,507 people raised their hands and prayed to invite Jesus into their lives for the very first time. This is who we are. One life, one story at a time. 1 + 1 + 1 + 1. And altogether, we represent an extraordinary move of God. We know that God has put bold faith and irrational generosity in the DNA of our church. We know that next year we'll continue to see those numbers climb, and one by one we'll see families restored, marriages strengthened, the next generation supported, and eternities secured. We will continue to see our city reached and other cities like it for decades to come. Over and over again, we will hear God call us to more, and one by one, He'll show us that the best is still yet to come. Merry Christmas, Southside.
Hello everyone, my name is Maddie and it is great to be here with you all today. If you're new to Southside, whether you're watching online or here in person, we want to give you a big welcome. We want you to know that we exist for you, no matter how you walked in today or what questions you have about God, church, or life. We'd also love to hear from you, and it's super easy. You text the keyword hello to us at 604-670-3040. When you do, we'll send you a link to our digital connections card. It's a great way for us to get to know you better, answer any questions that you might have, and make sure your experience with us has been amazing. Plus, as a little welcome here gift after you fill it out, we'll send you a $5 Starbucks e-card. We are 1 week into December, so that means that our Christmas countdown is well underway. This year, we have 6 identical Christmas services to choose from across 2 days. So on Sunday, December 22nd, we have Christmas services at 9 a.m., 11 a.m., and 4 p.m. And then on Tuesday, December 24th at 2 p.m., 4 p.m., and 6 p.m. As always, our adult services will be incredible, filled with live music by our amazing band and a hope-filled Christmas message from Pastor Mike. And while you enjoy that, your kids will be having the time of their lives with our team and Southside Kids. We've designed kids services filled with games, stories, songs, crafts, and surprises, all centered around the true meaning of Christmas. Mark your calendars and grab a few invites for friends on your way out this morning. We got a chance to see 2024 in review, and what a year. More help, hope, and home to our city than ever before. And as the kids pastor here, it has been incredible to see kids and youth consistently coming to know Jesus and growing in their relationships with Him. Story after story of young lives changed and eternities altered forever. I'm thankful every week that I get to play a part in what God is doing here through our church. And I'm proud to sacrifice financially in order to help fund the continued life change that we see every week. Maybe you're new here, or maybe you've been with us for a while and you've never given financially, but you're feeling like today is the day that you want to start. Let me tell you that something miraculous happens when we sacrifice to give to other people. We talk about it in Southside Kids all the time. God takes our gifts and He amplifies them to do more good with it than we could ever do on our own. You only have to look as far as that 2024 in review video to see that it's true. So if today you want to take God at His word and give to help continue to fund life change this year and into the next, it's easy. Text the keyword GIVE to 604-670-3040. You'll receive a link back with all the online ways you can start giving today. And if online giving isn't your thing, the Giving Desk team in the lobby would love to help you. All right, so now it's time to dive into the message for today. Quick reminder to please silence your phones and remain seated throughout this message as we maintain a distraction-free environment in the auditorium and for those watching online today. This morning, Pastor Mike has an incredible message prepared for us, so let's lock in. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the service.
Good morning, everybody. There's people who would tell you that history is inevitable, like whatever's going to happen is going to happen. There's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing anyone can do about it. Those people are actually wrong. I would describe history not as inevitable, but as incredibly intricate. If you want proof, I'll turn your attention to a specific date, May 26th of 1940. See, King George VI of England had called his nation to a day of prayer. And on May 26, 1940, millions of people responded. There's a picture I love with thousands of people lined up outside of Westminster Abbey to get in to pray. They were praying for the survival of their nation, actually. This was the early days of World War II, and Hitler and Nazi Germany had unleashed on the world something called Blitzkrieg, means lightning war, and to be frank, the world wasn't ready for it. Hitler took Austria, Czechoslovakia, Poland, Denmark, Norway, Luxembourg, Belgium, Holland, and then he went around the Maginot Line and rolled into France. So quickly, in fact, that he had 350,000 British troops in headlong retreat. They ran until they got to the English Channel near a little town called Dunkirk. It seemed like World War II was going to be over before it even started. There was a new prime minister in England. Winston Churchill had been in office for just about 2 weeks. And it seemed like his first and only duty as prime minister was going to be to surrender to Hitler. It seemed like evil and darkness had won. But then on May 26, 1940, the people prayed. And Hitler stopped. He stopped his advance 15 kilometers from Dunkirk. Made no sense. Hitler's generals begged him to finish what they had started, to eliminate the threat of these 350,000 troops to end the war. But on May 26, 1940, Hitler stopped. And these 350,000 soldiers, they prepared for an evacuation. And that new prime minister, Winston Churchill, he sent everything that would float across the English Channel, fishing boats, sailboats, pleasure craft, anything that could float, he sent across from England to Dunkirk. And almost all of the 350,000 soldiers lived, quite literally, to fight another day. Historians still refer to those moments in late May and early June of 1940 as the miracle of Dunkirk. It's a good title. It's amazing because for months and months of World War II, England stood alone in Europe against Hitler and Nazi Germany. And almost exactly 4 years later came maybe the most famous invasion in human history, D-Day, from England. The Allies launched an attack back onto the European continent, June 6th, 1944. See, it turned out that evil and darkness won the battle, but lost the war. Because Hitler stopped. But what if he didn't? That's what I mean when I tell you that world history is really intricate. But it's not just world history, is it? It's personal history too. It's true of your life, it's true of mine. My mind goes back to my second day at Trinity Western University. I was hanging around with a bunch of my buddies in our dorm, and our resident director came walking up. He said, guys, we're going on a dorm date tonight. I'm like, what's a dorm date? He's like, a dorm full of guys takes a dorm full of girls out on a date. I'm like, that's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. He's like, yeah, but we're doing it. I'm like, okay. He said, if you have a car, grab a buddy and just go to this parking lot, find a couple girls and see if they want to ride. I'm like, okay. So I got my roommate, Mike Cousins, cool surfer dude from North Van. We drove to this parking lot. I said, go find a couple girls. So we walked up. He said, do you two girls want to ride? And they said they did. So they got in the back of my car and we're driving. We were meeting at McDonald's in Langley. So I said, where are you girls from? And Carmen said, I'm from Yakima, Washington. Never heard of Yakima, Washington before. And then Corinne said, I'm from Red Deer, Alberta. And I said, so am I. She said, you're lying. Don't be weird. I said, I am actually from Red Deer. So we arrive at McDonald's, and Corinne stops, and she goes, whoa, wait a minute. She pulls my ball cap off, and she says, oh, I've seen you. I know who you are. It's funny because that was just a moment. But how was I to know that that was going to be the first moment of a lifetime of moments? Corinne's my wife, my best friend. Because we went on a dorm date. But what if we didn't? Or what if my cousin has picked two different girls to get in the car? What if? History is full of what if. World history and personal history too. I'm sure you can imagine so many what ifs in your life, even as I'm speaking. I bring that up because we're launching into a 3-part series. Culminates in our Christmas services. And I just want to ask 2 questions. What if Christmas had never happened? What if Jesus had never been born? What if? What if? I think it's going to be amazing, you know? It's going to be an amazing series for you if you've never walked into church before. You're going to absolutely love it. Talk about why we don't see Christmas as just another winter break, although the winter break is awesome. We'll take it. I said last week that we have a goal that for the first time in the history of our church, we'd see over 5,000 people at our Christmas in-person events this year, and it's awesome. But as I walked away from last week Sunday, having said that, I felt something inside of me, like call it a conviction if you want. See, here's the truth. Over the last couple years, I've backed off a little bit on my inviting people to Christmas services. And the reason I have is because it's often kind of weird when I invite someone to Christmas. Because I'll walk up and I'll go, hey man, do you want to come to Southside Church for Christmas? And they'll be like, yeah, who's speaking? I am. It's going to be awesome. You know, it feels weird. But this year I decided that I was going to run the risk of being weird because I don't want to spend my next months asking what if. So I've been carrying a bunch of these around with me everywhere I go. And when I see a buddy of mine or someone who I've been chatting with, I'll hand them one. Last week, I walked up to a guy. I'm like, hey, man, I'm a pastor, actually. He's like, no, you're not. I'm like, yeah, I am. He's like, there's no bleeping way you're a pastor. I'm like, no, I really am. And I said, I'd like to invite you to the Southside Christmas services this year. It's the church that I'm a part of. He said, man, I'm not really much of a church person, you know what I mean? I said, Yeah. I said, but we're a little different. Southside's a little bit different. I think you're gonna love it, you should come. See, I'm not sure whether 5,000 people are gonna show up this year. I don't know. But for me, it doesn't really matter. What matters to me is that I'm not walking around asking what if. Someone sent me some stats the other day. They said 2% of people who show up at church for the first time come because a pastor invited them. 86% of people come because somebody who's not a pastor invited them. 6% advertising, and then 6% they just decided to come, you know. It was funny because on the night of All Is Bright, I was walking around and just met a bunch of people, so fun. And I met 3 different people who talked to me about how their life was completely changed because they came to a Southside Christmas service, and they've been coming ever since, you know. It was weird because I asked all 3 of them, why did you come? You know, what convinced you to come? And weirdly, not one of them said I was invited. Just said, I don't know, like, I just heard about Southside Christmas. It's awesome. Which is really, really cool. But for me, and maybe I'm encouraging you too, what if we just decide that we're just gonna invite people this year? And maybe it'll get weird, but I'd rather go with weird than what if, you know? Because after I stood up here or sat up here last week, and I said, oh, the goal is over 5,000, that's really cool, something hit me. My life was completely changed. Because when I was 12 or 13 years old, our family drove from Red Deer, Alberta, my little sister, my mom and dad, and me, and we came out to the Fraser Valley to celebrate Christmas. And my Uncle Nick invited my dad to church. And Jesus saved my dad that night. And I know one thing for sure. If that invitation had not been extended, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be standing up here right now. So I would ask you to consider just inviting some people in your life. It's kind of weird this year because the services start on Sunday. I just want to remind you that the Christmas services start on Sunday. So we're not gonna do a completely different service Sunday morning. It's all Christmas services, okay, from the 22nd on. The service times are different. It's 9, 11, and 4 on the 22nd. Then we take the 23rd off, and then 2, 4, 6 on the 24th. Someone asked me the other day, like, can I come on my own on Sunday and then bring a bunch of friends on Tuesday? Yeah, you can do that. You can do that. So I said, I think this is the kind of series that if you've never walked into church before, if you've never tuned into a church online before, that you're really gonna love. I think it's the type of series that people who have spent a lot of time in church like me, we're really gonna love it too. I got here early this morning, just like I do every Sunday morning. The band was in here and they were practicing, you know? And the song that really hit me was a song that I've heard hundreds of times in my life. Angels We Have Heard on High. What a song, man. What a song that is, right? Like you think about it, that song comes from a story. It's found in the Gospel of Luke chapter 2. There were shepherds in the field the night that Jesus was born. And what were they? Well, they were just keeping watch over their flocks that night. And suddenly, an angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified, obviously. But I want to stop just for a second because I want to remind you that out of anyone in the world that God could have announced the birth of his son to, he announced it to a bunch of shady shepherds. They were considered shady in that culture. They were considered less than in that culture. I love that. I love that. God was making a point. The angel says to the shepherds, hey, don't be terrified. I bring you good news of great joy that'll be for all people. Oh, even shady people? Yeah, that's the point. That's the point. But I'm listening to the band sing that song, and I'm just imagining what it must have been like to be in that field. So the angel says, I bring you good news of great joy. And then there's this group of angels sings this cool song. And after they're done, the shepherds head straight into Bethlehem to see if it really happened, and it did. And then listen to this. The shepherds returned to their flock, ecstatic over what had happened. They praised God and glorified him. Everyone who heard the shepherd's story was astonished by what they were told. I want that to be my life. I want that to be my life. Everything that Jesus has done for me, I've stepped into relationship with him and I've seen it's all true. I'm ecstatic. I'm ecstatic. I want my life, this season and all the seasons to come, I want my life to praise God actually. To such a degree, in fact, that everyone I talk to walks away astonished at what God has done. So I think if you've been at church for a long time, it's a great chance to get ecstatic again. So what if Christmas had never happened? What if Jesus had never been born? What if this was just another winter break? Well, here in part one of this three-part series, I want to point to some of the words of Jesus found in the first book of the New Testament, the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 11. Jesus said this, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." This past summer, Corinne and I went to England, spent some time in England, met some amazing people. One of the guys we met was this Irish dude. Super cool, and he was telling me how for 3 months, every morning, all he would do is read this short passage over and over and over again. All different translations. One of his favorite is called The Message. This is how The Message paraphrases Jesus' words. Are you tired? Worn out? Burnt out on religion? Come to me, get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. What if Christmas had never happened? What if Jesus had never been born? I want to take that passage and give you 3 thoughts. Number 1, if Christmas had never happened, we'd have no place to turn for our hope. Number 2, we'd have no way to stand under our burden. And number 3, we'd have nowhere to run from our fear. So first of all, we'd have no place to turn for our hope. Jesus says this, are you tired, worn out, burnt out on religion? Religion sounds like such a churchy word, doesn't it? I would suggest to you it's not actually. Let me explain. I know something you and me have in common. We both want more. We want more. We want more than this world has to offer. We want more than meets the eye. We want more than what we're currently experiencing right now. In fact, I would suggest to you that that's really the foundation of our hope. You and me, we want more. Church people want more. Non-church people want more. So in that sense, we all want salvation, don't we? Salvation just looks different for different people. We all want to make our way to heaven, right? Heaven just looks different for different people. Here's what religion says to church people and to non-church people. Religion says this, there is more. There is more. And now you got to go get it. That will burn you out. I can't find the more I'm looking for on my own. I can't. I can't find the stairway to heaven no matter how hard I look. See, we're all looking for salvation. For some people, salvation is morality. But then you get to a certain point of your life, and deep down inside, you're asking yourself this question: well, how many rules would I have to keep? How many regulations would I have to adhere to? Like, how many hoops would I have to jump through to find more? And the answer, the heartbreaking truth, is always this: too many. Too many. For some, salvation is found in success. But then you get to a certain point in your life where deep down inside, you're asking this question: well, how many battles would I have to win? How many challenges would I have to overcome? How many people would have to refer to me as a winner for it to be enough? And the heartbreaking answer is always too many. Too many. For some, salvation is money, right? And then you get to a point in your life where it's like, how many accounts would I have to open? How many investments would I have to make? How many stacks would I have to accumulate? And the answer is, heartbreakingly, too many. For some people, it's pleasure. You get to a certain point in your life where you ask, well, how much sex would I have to have? How much porn would I have to surf? How many hits would I have to take? And the heartbreaking answer is too many. You understand? Religion says this, man: there is more. Now go get it. And our hope is lost when we come to the heartbreaking realization: I can't do it on my own. That's why Jesus came. Jesus came as an answer to religion, as an alternative to religion. One of the names that's given to Jesus around this time of year is the name Emmanuel, which means God with us. You get it? Like, God's not saying, jump higher, climb faster, run harder. God sent hope to you. God sent hope to me. When Jesus stepped into human history, God was sending hope to us. Jesus is the more that I've been looking for, and he's right here, right now. Through his Holy Spirit, in fact, the truth is, he's gone before us into this spectacular moment right here and right now. You don't got to run. You don't got to reach. He's right here. So number one, what if Christmas had never happened? What if Jesus had never been born? Well, we'd have no place to turn for our hope. Number two, we have no way to stand under our burden. You ever heard the word karma? Karma? Karma, chameleon? That's how old I am, man. That's how old I am right there. Ridiculous. Karma, you ever heard karma? Karma's a burden. Karma's a burden. That's the B word we'll use today. Karma is a burden, right? It doesn't seem like it should be in a way, because like karma just says eventually, you just get what you deserve. That sounds fair, right? Right? Like if you do good, you get good. That makes sense. You know, the only problem with karma for me is I know me. You know the only problem with karma for you? You know you. And here's the truth about you and me. We've done some really good things in our life, and then we've done some things that just aren't good. You know, and the thing is like, it doesn't matter how many good deeds you've done, you can't erase the bad stuff you've done, right? You say, well, yeah, but I know what I can do. I can just stack up good deeds. I can help so many old ladies across the street, it's not even funny, you know? And eventually I'll just have this big stack of good deeds and they'll outweigh the bad deeds. That's cool. I get that. You know the problem for me with that one is? I still am doing dumb stuff. I'm still doing dumb things. You want an example? No, I'm not giving you one. No, I will. So I've told you about 780 times that Kurt and I were in England last summer, you know? And while we were in England, we went to this pub in Oxford. We're sitting outside the pub having steak pie. Now, when I got back from England, I couldn't figure out why steak pie isn't everywhere. There should be steak pie restaurants everywhere, you know? I was complaining about that to our staff team, and one of the members of our team, Jake Wilkins, cool, curly-haired guy that is up here playing the guitar, he went and he found a store in town. They're now sponsoring me. No, they're not, but I'll give them a plug anyways. Dickens. There's a place called Dickens. He went and bought us a couple steak pies. We cooked them up and we ate them, Jake and me, you know? Anyways, that's not the point of the story. So we're eating steak pie and sticky toffee pudding. We're outside of this pub in Oxford. This is the view, by the way. I took a picture of what we were looking at as we sat outside of that pub. That's the Claridod building. What's kind of cool about it is that it's like a couple hundred years older than Canada. Okay, so that's Oxford, right? So we're hanging out at this long table. And it's not just for one group, like everyone just finds a spot, you sit. It's a really cool way to meet people, actually. So people just come and they sit beside you, and this young kid comes and sits beside Corinne and me. 24-year-old kid from Australia. Awesome guy. He said he just moved from Australia, knows nobody in England, but here he is. And I really like him, and I start to feel like, man, I'd really like to talk to this kid about Jesus. So Corinne says, I got to go to the bathroom. She walks away, and I'm thinking, this is my chance. So I look at him, and I said, hey, man, why did you want a fresh start? He's like, whoa. How did you know? If I could speak Australian, I'd say it how he said it, but I can't. Okay, so how did you know? And I'm like thinking to myself, you left everything and everyone you know in Australia, and you moved to England where you know nobody. It's not really rocket science, okay? But this is what I said. I said, well, we all want a fresh start, don't we? We all kind of want a fresh start. He's like, whoa. What do you do, man? I'm like, what do you mean, what do I do? He's like, for a living, like, what do you do? So this is where the story goes off the rails, okay? So shortly before that moment, I'd been listening to a sermon podcast, and this particular pastor said, hey man, sometimes when I want to get into a spiritual discussion with somebody and they ask me what I do, I say I'm a teacher, because sometimes when you say you're a pastor, it just shuts down the conversation. So I say, well, I'm a teacher. And now what I want to say to him is this, hey man, because I think, back to that fresh start thing, I think like the real fresh start isn't about where we live, but it's about deep inside, you know, that would have been good, right? Except here's the problem, this kid wouldn't shut up. He asked follow-up questions. The guy on the podcast didn't talk about follow-up questions. He says, well, what age group do you teach? I said, what do you mean? He said, what do you mean, what do I mean? Like, what age group do you teach? I'm like, oh no. He's like, high school? Well, I'm like, adults. I teach adults. Now, I'm about to get back into, the real kind of fresh start we need. It's not out there, it's in here. And he asks another follow-up question. He says, well, what subject do you teach? I'm like, theology, So now I'm rattled, and Corinne gets back from the bathroom, and I'm like, I gotta go, I gotta regroup, So I walked away, and he says to Corinne, so what do you do? And Corinne says, well, my husband Mike probably told you that he's a pastor. He's like, no. He told me he's a theology professor. Corinne's like, no, he didn't. No, he didn't. And he's like, oh, yes, he did. Did Corinne cover for me? Not at all. I get back to the table. She's like, why did you tell this guy that you're a theology professor? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm not. I think my motives were good, but just as a rule, I kind of think like lying isn't the best way to share the gospel with somebody. It's just a crazy thought, Like for the rest of the trip, I'm in the subway in London. Hi, my name is Mike. I'm a pastor to everybody I see, pretty much. Funny story, right? And pretty safe for me to tell, right? Oh, look at Mike. He's just got a little off track there when he was trying to share the gospel. Okay, but I know my heart. Like not last summer, but last week. So I know the times that I'm feeling angry when I shouldn't. I know the times that I'm feeling really impatient when I shouldn't. I know the times that I'm feeling really self-absorbed when I should really be selfless. I know the times that I should be forgiving, but I choose to be bitter instead. How about you? See, karma's a burden. It's a burden. And Jesus says this incredible thing. He said, you know what you need to learn? You know what you gotta learn? You should learn the unforced rhythms of grace. See, that's a radical alternative to karma, isn't it? You know the unforced rhythms of grace say? You don't actually get what you deserve. It's way better than that. He did good, so I get good. It's not about my performance, it's about his. So what if Christmas had never happened? What if Jesus had never been born? Well, number one, we'd have no place to turn for hope. Number two, we'd have no way to stand under our burden. And finally, number three, we'd have nowhere to run from our fear. I wonder what it felt like in England on May 26th of 1940. I wonder what that felt like, right? Like Hitler is rolled through Europe, and now you know you're next. Here comes evil, here comes darkness, ready or not. I wonder how anxious they were. See, I bring that up because I think the world that I live in, the world that you live in, I think we can relate a little bit. There's something dark about this world. There's something broken about this world. I don't need to convince you. There's so many people here in this room and watching online right now, and even in this past year, you've experienced the death of a loved one, a member of your family, a close friend. And when it happens, there's something inside you that says, you gotta be kidding me. Like, this is broken, this is wrong. And what I wanna suggest to you is that it's an appropriate sense of wrongness. It's an appropriate sense of wrongness. There is something broken, there is something dark, there is. And maybe for you, it's not the death of someone you love, but maybe it's the death of a dream, the death of a relationship, the death of hope. And there's this appropriate sense of wrongness. May 26, 1940, it's like, here comes darkness, ready or not. Living in this world feels that way sometimes. Here comes death, ready or not. Here comes darkness, ready or not. See, what happened is in the beginning, God created everything. It was new and it was perfect. But then sin entered the equation, and it went from new and perfect to old and broken. Sin is death. Sin is death because sin separates us from a God who is life. And God sent Jesus. It's funny, this time of year, we celebrate the birth of Jesus, and we should. I want to be ecstatic about that, but you know why I'm so ecstatic? Is because there's a reason Jesus was born. Jesus was born so that he could die. He died the death that is sin. And they say that after Jesus died on the cross, they took him down from the cross and they buried him. They buried him in a tomb. I think maybe a better description would be they planted him. See, because on the third day, life burst forth of that empty tomb. Life. Not just for Jesus, but for you. and for you, for me. Jesus said this, get away with me and you'll recover your life. Something's been lost. Get away with me, Jesus says, and you'll recover your life. It's interesting because Revelation chapter 1 says this, while Jesus was in that tomb, he went on an errand. He went to pick up a couple of things. You know what he picked up? He picked up the keys of death and the grave. May 26, 1940, you know? Darkness and evil has its day, but D-Day is coming. D-Day is coming. Freedom is coming. He has the keys of death and the grave. Here's what I'm saying, for you and for me, for you and for me, when you die, when I die, when my body wears out, when your body wears out, what we think sometimes is like, that's the end of my story. No. That's the beginning. That's a page turn. It's a page turn. To the greatest story that's ever been told. See, it turns out that Jesus came, and because he came, death and evil won the battle, but they lost the war. So what if Jesus had never been born? What if Christmas had never happened? Well, number one, we said we'd have no place to turn for our hope. But because of him, we don't have to turn. We don't have to search. He's right here. Secondly, we said if Christmas had never happened, we'd have no way to stand under our burden. Karma is a burden. But Jesus introduced something radical, the unforced rhythms of grace. He does good, so I get good. And thirdly, we'd have nowhere to run from our fear. But because he came, brokenness won the battle, but lost the war. Because of Jesus, death is not the end, it's just the beginning. It's a page turn and the best. Are you kidding me? The best is yet to come. Let's pray. In this moment right now, with all eyes closed and all heads bowed, just want to ask a simple question. You understand your history is not inevitable, right? Man, you might feel broken and you might feel lost and you might feel hopeless. Oh, no. Your history is so incredibly intricate. Listen to this. So intricate, in fact, that Jesus orchestrated events that you would be here and right now to hear this message. Everything that needed to be done has been done. He died for you. He rose again for you. If today is the day that you want to accept his gift of salvation, with heads bowed and eyes closed, I just want you to raise your hand nice and high because I want to pray for you right in this moment. It's incredible. And if you're watching online, I'd love it if you could raise your hand also. You can put your hands down. I'm going to pray out loud, just invite you to pray silently along with me. So Jesus, thank you. Thank you that everything you did for me. Thank you for salvation. Thank you for forgiveness. Thank you for forever. I give you my life right now, Jesus. I give you my trust. I give you my faith. And Jesus, for those of us who have been in church for a long time, we just want to acknowledge to you right now in this Christmas season, we're ecstatic. We're ecstatic at what you have done, what you are doing, and what you have yet to do. We're ecstatic. We want to live a life that praises you so that people around us will go, something's different, something's going on. We love you, we thank you in your name. Amen. Let's celebrate. We'll see you next week. Love you guys.
you.